Hey everyone, welcome to my studio here in sunny Colorado where it's almost spring and I'm getting really excited. My name is Melanie Kline and I've been so lucky to have spent my whole life in this field. I really want to share what I've learned with you. I've always had a retail store along with my workshop, so I've learned the ins and outs of marketing my work, designing, producing, and selling. And this video series will cover those things. It's 4 parts. The first one, and the most important one, is developing fine craftsmanship. Section 2 will be about the design, construction, production, and pricing of your jewelry line. Section 3 will be bringing your line to market. Section 4 will be closing that sale. You're so lucky to come into the jewelry world at this time when so many fine craftsmen have paved the way for you to market your product. So I hope that I can teach you something that I've learned through the years. We will talk about design and production, pricing and marketing, but first and foremost, we will focus on fine craftsmanship and the mastery of technique, because that really is the basis of everything. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a simple but safe clasp to keep your handmade appeal. You just don't get that look when you're using commercial spring rings and lobster clasps. And if you're going to the trouble of making something handmade, I think it'd be wonderful if you would put a handmade clasp on it. So, cut a 2-inch section of 16 gauge round sterling silver wire. Also, cut a 1.5-inch section of 18 gauge round sterling silver wire. We're going to start by filing one end of the 16 gauge 2-inch piece nice and flat to get it ready to solder. Use your round nose pliers and bend that end around into a circle as tight as you can. Then, using flat nose pliers, tighten it even more till the end of the wire meets for soldering. Over here at the soldering bench, we will flux the joint and solder it together with hard solder. If you're new to soldering, you can find more complete instructions in my earlier video called The Basic Band Ring. Always flip it over and draw the solder through to the other side now. Okay, pick up your wire with your tweezers and ball back the other end. Quench, pickle, rinse and dry. Next, fashion the basic shape of a hook with your round nose pliers. This is going to get modified a lot throughout the process until we reach the final fit, but you're just starting to put in that shape now. Measure and cut a 1/4-inch piece of sterling silver tubing. This is 2 mm outside diameter heavy wall tubing, and the inside diameter fits 18 gauge round wire perfectly. Now we're going to solder the tubing to the hook. I have the hook in a cross-locking tweezers, and I'm going to just dip it in the flux that I dropped on the tubing. Now I'll set it aside. Warm the flux till it bubbles the liquid off and leaves a crust. Then pick up a square of hard solder and melt it in the center of the tube. Position the curve of the hook on the solder using your eye to hold it square and straight to the tubing. Take your time and use a third hand if that's easier for you. Heat them both together until you see them bond. Quarter inch is longer than we need for the final length of tubing. So now we'll file it down to be shorter and to be the same length on each side of the hook. Don't make it too short. The tubing length is what restricts movement that we don't want and keeps the safety clasp in place. Now there's an edge around the ends of the tubing. So we're going to use a 1mm drill bit, which is the same diameter as 18 gauge round wire, and clean out the hole. Pick up the 1.5 inch piece of 18 gauge round wire that we cut earlier. Push it through to approximately the middle of the tubing. Accuracy is not that important right now, so don't stress about it being perfectly centered. Bend each end around the tubing with the goal of making those ends meet. Put a little bend down from each end of the wire and make the bends touch each other. Hold your hook in a locking tweezer and ball the ends of the wires together until they join into one ball. Stop and take a look at it. You can leave it long like this or melt them together more. I'm going for more melting here because I don't want it to stick out too much on the finished piece. Now comes a lot of fiddling and tweaking. We're trying to get an approximate relationship between the safety clasp and the ball at the end of the hook. If you bend the sides in like this, the fit will be stronger and snappier, and the shape won't change over time and use. Okay, when you think your fit is close, it's time to set the curve in your hook. Place it on your steel plate and strike it gently with your polished hammer. You've done a little forging with me at this point, so you've learned that doing this will harden the metal and keep that curve from changing. That's why we call it setting the curve. By doing this forging, you will have changed the fit a little bit, so you'll need to readjust it again. The goal for it is to feel it snap over the ball. Play with it until it's a secure fit that you have to pop open with your fingernail. Now use your radial bristle disc to pre-polish. If you have dimples in the little round balls that you've made, you can smooth them out using a large cup burr like this. I hope you'll try this and think about using them to upgrade your handmade jewelry. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new. Go practice!